When I found unity, it was a wonderful time. I needed prosperity. You know, I was in college. My family didn't pay for any of it. I did. And I worked as a church organist, so I had rehearsal every week, and I had up to two services on Sunday. And I taught in a music studio 2 nights a week, and Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 6. Some Saturdays, I used to say, they'd shut me in the studio, my studio, and periodically throw in a piece of meat because I didn't get out of it for 9 hours. It was a long time. I had 40 students. And so I found unity in 1966 and began to hear about prosperity. I don't need to tell you what it's like to be in this human experience, do I? Where things appear, and then sometimes the things we desire, the things we want, or the things we think we need, we can't find them. They seem to not exist for us. Well, I use 2 words I think are important: human and experience. Because we have an experience in our lives doesn't mean that it is reality or based on an internal principle. So if it doesn't appear that there's good in our lives at this moment, that's not based upon the truth of being. It's not the truth about you. It is an experience and a situation we're moving through, but it is not the reality of our lives. Human, well, we're having a human experience, but that's not what we are. Many years ago, I think it was 1983, a Unity minister friend said to me once, "Greg, yeah, we have to face facts. We're only human." And my eyes got as big as saucers. And I thought, how can you say that? Human is our experience here in physicality, but we are not human beings. That's not the reality of us. We are spiritual beings, right? Created in the image after the likeness of God. When you look in the mirror every morning, when you get up, you should be saying, "Oh God." I know you already are. Except it should be a blessing and a prayer. God's very own Spirit is implanted within you. God provided you a universe with all things necessary for your evolution, spiritual, right here. How wise Jesus was when he said, "Consider the lilies of the field." Boy, how hard did those suckers work? Seems not at all to human eyes. But they know their source. A seed knows which way to put its roots and which way its head goes. Sometimes we're not that wise. And how important are those roots to every plant? That's their source. And they know that. And they do that well. They know the importance of staying connected. You can imagine if they pulled their roots out and started walking around the town. It would be lovely to see lilies walking around the city, but they wouldn't last long. Just as we don't when we disconnect. God put you in a radiant universe filled with absolute good, filled with substance. Remember, we've talked about it several times. God doesn't have substance to give you. God is the substance you need. And that substance, I like in Prosperity. Surely you've read it. If not, you must run out and buy it right now. Prosperity was Charles' gift to the American people in the time of the Depression, 1929. In that book, he used several words instead of substance, and I love them all. One of my favorites, excuse my crackling, luminiferous ethers. Can't you see that? Luminiferous ethers, interpenetrating essence, meaning it's within everything. Substance forms your body. Substance forms the dollar bills I handed out. Substance, you ride in it, called an automobile. You live in it, called a house. Stands in back of every outer form. Luminiferous, interpenetrating ethers, invisible energies, and also invisible mind stuff. I love these words. We don't use a lot of them today. But think of those luminiferous ethers surrounding you, filling your life, expressing in your life to the level that we allow, to the level that we accept, to the level that we acknowledge. We've got a quotation from Charles Fillmore. And it's about giving. Without giving, the soul shrivels. That's pretty plain, isn't it? Unless you want a shriveled soul, remember, it's as you give, so you receive. The law of giving and receiving. We don't just say the law of receiving, but of giving and receiving. Just imagine if your plumbing connections to your house only had an inlet. Don't invite me to dinner. Inlet and outlet. We are both the inlet and the outlet. You let it in by receiving, and you let it move through you as you use it for good and give it wherever you're guided. It's one process, giving and receiving. It continues, but when giving is practiced as a part of Christian living, the soul expands and becomes godlike in the grace of liberality and generosity. Yeah. I like that idea. When I give, it's not only that I'm going to receive, but my consciousness grows. Consciousness, soul, same word. Our consciousness grows. As it grows, what do you think can happen? We can receive even more, even greater, because we have developed, I'm going to say, a bigger bucket. You know, it's a wonderful ocean when you go to the Pacific or the Atlantic. I like them both. Kind of partial to the Atlantic because that's the first one I ever saw. And I lived on the beach in Fort Lauderdale for a while. That was kind of nice too. Could walk along the shore and hear the waves rolling in at night. Now, you could bring home some of that ocean, right? You might go with a small vial or a pickle bottle. Somebody who really has a consciousness will pull up a truck with a tank. That's your consciousness. The size of your consciousness as it approaches the sea of substance, as it is surrounded by the sea of substance. What can you hold? Giving is one of that processes of enlarging your vessel. Consciousness is your vessel. Now, to draw upon that unlimited energy, that luminiferous ethers, that invisible mind stuff or invisible energies, requires something. We have to recognize its availability. We have to recognize that it's here and it's here now. It's not that, oh, you pray and then God says, oh, okay, I have to make that. I'll take 2 weeks. Unless the weather's bad, and then it might take 3. Everything you will ever need or desire, experience in this world, in this universe, when was it created? Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The divine ideas for infinite supply. And that's all things. No, Adam and Eve did not cook the first chicken in a microwave. And you don't either if you have any sense. But all the principles already existed for that to occur. We had to learn more about our universe and about the principles that are invisible, but in back of every device, every invention, every increase in knowledge of this universe. Principle, law, order. To draw upon that, you have to recognize its availability, but also know that you're one with it. It's somewhere under here, and there's a little connector in there that I can't get to without taking some clothes off. And I get paid to keep them on. All of that energy, you have to realize the abundance in this universe you are one with. And how do you experience that oneness? God is the substance you seek. So oneness with the substance is oneness with God. Some call it love. And Charles said that love is that universal idea of oneness, unity, connectedness. You and the Father can never be separate. Because if God could separate itself, even for an instant from you, you would cease to exist. And I don't hear those little pops when people cease to exist. You're here, and you are one. Know its availability, that luminiferous ether, and know that you are one with it. You are never without it. Love is a wonderful thing. And it's a magnet that draws to us the good we seek. Each one of us as individualized expressions of God. And I said early, as we have this human experience, sometimes it seems like there's feast, and other times, that other thing. You know what I mean, right? Where we have so much, we don't know what to do with it. Were you thinking famine? Yeah. It's appearance that it seems to happen. Sometimes we go through experiences where there seems to be a lack, and I always say seems, because there is never a lack in truth. There's never a lack of that invisible energy in this universe, and never a lack of divine ideas. Go to a yard sale. Look at all the things they're selling. And you think, why did anybody buy that? Whoever dreamed that thing up? And why? Well, they're abundant, apparently. It's a radiant universe filled with good for each one of us. We have to know that it's there, and we have to believe that it is there for us and will express in our lives. Now, as psalmist, Psalm 139, it's a favorite, folks. The psalmist understood this whole concept of us being in a human experience. And he said, whither shall I go from thy spirit? Where can I go, God, to get away from you? Or whither shall I flee from thy presence? Do you think I can get away from you? But here's what happens. If I ascend to heaven, guess what? Thou art there. If I make my bed in Sheol, thou art there. You can translate that hell. Been there lately? Never buy a round-trip ticket. And of course, everybody here has heard this, but I will just pass on my advice. When in hell, hydrate. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea. How far away do you think that was to the psalmist? As far as he could possibly conceive. He hadn't thought about going to the moon yet, or to Mars or any other planet. As far as he could conceive of going was the uttermost, the farthest part of the sea, which would also be perhaps the deepest. If I go there, even there thy hand shall lead me, and thy right hand shall hold me. When we experience the best of times and experience great prosperity, we know God is there, right? Hey, we got us a good God. And the weather we've had recently, folks, we've been in the upper 90s, up to, I think we hit 100 one day this past week. Every time I walked into air conditioning, I had a little a little prayer statement. Oh, I know there's a God because it's air conditioned. In the other times, when the apparent lack, you can get all caught up in your head and there isn't enough, and worry and anxiety and all that stuff. What's that going to do for you? Worry is prayer in reverse. It's prayer in the negative. Are things going to get better? Not until you get better at recognizing you are one with the Father. You are one with this luminiferous ether, this stuff that surrounds us. Charles Fillmore said we live in a sea of it. Well, don't only swim in it, enjoy it. Lay hold of some of it. We're like the little fish who was swimming along with his mother. And he said, Mama, some of the other fishes were talking. And they said, we have to have water to survive. What are we going to do? Where are we going to get it? Her words of wisdom, son, you're swimming in it. Isn't that the truth of you? Isn't that what's happening to you right now? You're swimming in this sea of luminiferous ethers. You just have to recognize it, know it, make it a firm place in your mind, and feel that connection to God and to God as substance. As iron is always attracted to a magnet, so substance is manifest to those of us who recognize it, who acknowledge it, who feel our connection to the source of it. And you draw upon this divine energy with your minds, with holding an idea in your minds, not with the idea, I want this, I need this. How about, I have this? God has already prepared this for me. I accept it now. And I give thanks for it now. We do a variety of things to try and get more of that stuff. the old way that I heard a lot of people doing. Well, I think I'll have to get a second job. We have to sell our other car. There was a time where I sold my car and rode buses. But we have the tools to take care of that. But I think it's kind of like the lady on the Titanic. When she asked what the condition of the ship was, and he said, "Madam, we're sinking." "Well, what's there to do?" "Pray, madam, pray." "Oh, has it come to that?" We don't think of it first. We think of it last. We have the tools. And this takes you back to elementary unity, but it's not the only thing we teach, by the way. One day when Jesus was entering Caesarea Philippi, he asked the disciples, "Who do men say that the Son of Man is?" They answered, "Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." Jesus then asked, "Who do you say that I am?" Peter responded, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but my Father who is in heaven." It is an awakening spiritual awareness. And no wonder Peter represents faith. He saw the truth about Jesus, the Son of God, the Christ within. And it is for us to have that same vision, to see it within us and every other soul on this planet. Now, I know sometimes we might see it in ourselves, but you certainly don't see it in a few people, right? You may even be related to some of them. But it's important that we see it in all and see it in ourselves. Human thinking does not reveal the truth about our lives. The human senses, the five senses, don't tell us about the nature of reality. They tell us about time and space right here, right now. Yeah, the stove is hot. And you feel it, and it burns because you don't need to be putting your hand on it. That pain is beneficial. It tells you, don't do this. Our perception, our human perception, leads us to a variety of opinions about life that are often wrong. So we need to sometimes to change our minds about that. Well, the rest of the passage, Jesus says he gives to Peter the keys to the kingdom. I don't know if you've ever seen the crest of the Pope, but it includes a pair of crossed keys. The keys to the kingdom. The keys to the kingdom of mind. And what are those keys? Denial and affirmation. Oh, well, that's beginner stuff. Yeah, but it's permanent stuff for the rest of your lives. You'll never do without affirmation and denial until you are so enlightened, nothing enters your mind but truth and reality. I'm not there yet. We don't claim perfection, we claim progress. Yeah. Denial is a process of taking away the power from some false idea, false concept. You know how to use it. This is not the truth about me. I no longer accept that this is the reality of my life. You begin to remove that energy and acknowledge that it's an error thought. But then affirmation follows. If you create a hole in your mind, you want to be sure to fill it, because there's a lot of stuff that'll rush in to take its place. And stuff you don't want. The affirmation, it changes our focus from human sight to insight, from seeing through our eyes only and through human concepts and perceptions to spiritual awareness and truth. I'm a rich child of a radiant universe. Is that true? Yes. Is it true for you? Yes. I am a rich child of a radiant universe. Then say it. Now, do you believe that? Jesus said something very, very intelligent. What things soever ye desire, when you pray, believe that you receive them, and you shall have them. The magic word there is believe. And remember, this comes to us in English from some translators, so let me rephrase it. Faith. Place your faith in it. That perceiving power of the mind linked with the power to shape luminiferous ethers, I was going to say. But substance works. Yeah. The word that he would have used is hemenutha in Aramaic. Hemenutha. Maybe you hear amen in that. Hemenutha. Hear the amen with the hay in front of it? Hemenutha means confidence, firmness, truthfulness. The root of amen that's in there means to make firm, true, lasting, eternal. If your faith is invested, you see it as an eternal truth. You see it as the eternal reality of you. In Genesis, when it says, let there be a firm place, a firmament. That's the firmament of faith, that firm place that it creates. So when you believe in that substance, I'll use your word, our word, when you believe in it with that kind of firm foundation, then it's real to you. That's when you realize substance. That's when you realize the good you desire. I'm going to introduce you this week to something that I learned a few days ago, 1966, when I first started Unity. Somebody handed me, well, actually, it was my friend Marion who handed me the book Seed Money in Action. Somebody knows it? Yeah. It's a great book. And we've used it in a variety of ways. So I've given you a way to use such a concept now. It is a systematic way of giving. It's very simple. You give small amounts. This is not tithing. Tithing is in the Bible, folks. It's reality. Teachers such as Catherine Ponder say, if you don't tithe, it affects every area of your life, including health, peace of mind, happiness. This is over and above that. You pay a check in a restaurant. You get back some change. Now, if it's just some coins, you give that. You give it. I've handed it right back to the cashier. I've held on to it and I've given it to somebody else or some organization or whatever. Small amounts, but it's often. You can do it daily or several times a day. It's unexpected. I was in line at a grocery store, and a person in front of me started to pay and realized she didn't have her wallet in her purse. I think her total amount was $8 and some change. And I was right there, and I said to the cashier, I said, I'll take care of that. The woman was blown away. But I was happy to do it. It's an opportunity for me to give. And if I want to receive, I have to give. That's right. So, you give. I've given you, and I'm going to have some of these at the back of the room for those who didn't get them. A little sheet that you can make notations on. It says date and amount that you received and what you received, the kind of good that you received, or the unexpected good you receive. And the other side of the page is date and amount to whom you gave seed money. You'll notice the front of your bulletin, right? The bills are planted in the earth as seeds. That's exactly what you're doing. But beyond just giving, you need to do something. You need to believe. And on the back of your bulletin is how to sow for a tenfold increase. Plant the seed. Give any amount, even the change you receive from a cashier, to someone or some organization. Give it in love and faith. Okay, if I don't. Don't move. In faith means when you give it, you immediately give thanks for a tenfold return. Got it? Tenfold return. You give thanks knowing that it's already yours. You're not doing that hoping, you're doing it knowing. And this is small amounts generally, so you're not trying to deal with, oh, I'm given $1,000, so I expect 10 grand, Lord. Well, maybe you want to put that 10 grand in a teacup. Consciousness. So you start nickel and dime. Some pretty amazing people have done this. John D. Rockefeller, Andrew Mellon, Andrew Carnegie. There are many others who have practiced this same principle. And they found that they could not give God. But you have to do it with faith. Hemanutha. Firm place in mind with absolute confidence that it's yours. God intends for you to have it, and you accept it now. After you give it, after you've given your money, and you silently claim your tenfold return, then later when you're alone, you can pray about it, affirming that it's done. You can see it done in your mind. Repeat those statements, an affirmation that you accept it now. Repeat that you affirm this tenfold return and give thanks for it. I'd ask you don't start giving with a large amount. Let it be something that's easy, that's almost mindless. So it's easy for you to have faith in it. You're not looking for big demonstrations. And don't tell anybody what you're doing. You know what happens as soon as you do. Oh, hey, I'm practicing this new technique to bring more money into my life. Oh, how can you be so silly? Try getting another job. That'll work. Use the chart to keep a record so you can see if unexpected good comes into your life and what good you've given and what the return is. That luminiferous ethers, your pockets are full of it. And I remind you of a statement, you've heard it before, I know, of Dr. Sue Sicking. In my Father's pants are many pockets, filled with good for me. And that's the truth.